is coming up? What is coming up this week? That is the big $1 million question that I would like to answer for you. So we'll be talking about the astrology of the week ahead. We'll be talking about today, I decided I'm going to talk a little bit about the British royal family. So I don't know if you've got any interest in the British royal family and what the heck's been going on there. Last week we had the fabulous Alex Trenoweth on the show talking about the astrology of Oprah and Harry and Meghan, briefly in context of the astrology of adolescence, which was great. A lot of you mentioned how much you enjoyed Alex's chat, which is brilliant. So this week, what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of go into that a little bit deeper, but looking actually at the British royal family as a whole and drawing on the work of a very well-known astrologer called Bernadette Brady. So she may not be well known in sort of regular circles, like you probably haven't heard of her if you're not an astrologer. But for anyone who is an astrologer, they will have heard of Bernadette Brady. She's done a lot of work on something that's called fixed stars, which we're not going to be going into today. And also a lot of work on something called Saros cycles, S-A-R-O-S, Saros cycles, which, let me see if I can get you an absolute definition. I mean, I know what they are kind of within, here we are, Saros cycle definition. So, a Saros cycle is the period of time between successive and lunar and solar eclipses. That's the definition. The periodicity, this is from NASA, okay? This is the NASA definition. The periodicity, I've never even heard of that word, and recurrence of eclipses is governed by the Saros cycle. So Saros cycles basically are series of eclipses, and what Bernadette Brady did that was so groundbreaking is she worked out sort of the beginning and end of a whole stack of Saros cycles and did a whole stack of research on what they actually mean. And she put all her work together in a book that I think anyone who's a moon lover in particular, or just even into astrology, should read. It's an amazing book called The Eagle and the Lark. And so what she's done is she's looked at all the different eclipse cycles, the Saros cycles of all the different eclipses that happen, and they're all classified by just a little nomenclature, is that how you say it? North one, east, south one, all sorts of sort of ways of classifying them. And then what she's done is she's looked at, when they're all going to be taking place. So this year, we have particular eclipses taking place that Bernadette Brady will have looked into. She can say, this one is usually quite good for the world, or it's not good for the world. It's fascinating. Her research is absolutely fascinating. I've been reading. I first read her book when it first came out, and I've probably got 3 or 4 copies of it in the house because if ever I lose it, I immediately go and buy another copy. If we've lost it in a house move or something. So I've ended up with quite a few copies of her book. Unfortunately, they are all in storage right now because I do still have a whole lot of stuff in storage, having moved into this house, and now we're about to renovate, so there's no point in getting all the stuff out. But basically, what happened? What she says in her book, The Eagle and the Lark, is that there is a series of Saros cycle eclipses, or there is Saros cycle, which influences the British royal family. And effectively, this particular Saros cycle, Prince William, I believe, was born under it. Okay, Prince William was born under this Saros cycle, and it starts at the time that the British royal family, as we know it, was kind of, came into being, and it ends in 2036. Now, her book has to be at least, I would say, 20 years old, okay? So this isn't something she's just come up with recently because let me just look up when it was The Eagle and the Lark. This isn't just something she's come up with recently because, the royal family is looking a little bit challenged right now. I've just seen she wrote it in December. It was published in December 1998. Okay, so it's 24 years old or something like that, 23 years old. So yeah, and in it she states that because Prince William was born under this particular Saros cycle, which started when the royal family as we know it began and ends in 2036, she has long predicted that the monarchy will end with Prince William. And so when she published her book, The Eagle and the Lark, it's called Predictive Astrology, The Eagle and the Lark. When she published that book, Prince William would have been 3 or 4 years old. So when I saw what was going on with Oprah Winfrey and Harry and Meghan and the Queen and the general complete meltdown that the royal family has been having over the past 10 days, or a bit longer, I suppose, depending on how you look at it. But the interview with Oprah was a really, really big deal, obviously. I suddenly went, hang on a minute, didn't Bernadette Brady predict that, like that it would end with William, which is all of a sudden looking more and more likely? Because that interview obviously, completely pulled away the curtain over the royal family. They were accused of having an invisible contract with the press, having spent, and I say this as an ex-journalist who's been the butt of their complaints for, decades. They've always accused the press of being intrusive and doing everything bad and being wrong and being, just generally unpleasant and, get away and, all that. And yet here they are, revealed by Meghan and Harry, to have what they call an invisible contract with the press. In other words, you scratch our back and we'll scratch yours. And I mean, that to me was, maybe it's because I'm an ex-journalist, but to me, that was kind of like the biggest revelation of the whole gosh darn interview with Oprah. It was like, right, so you guys are actually in cahoots with the press to a certain extent. You are admitting that, having always treated the press with disdain and made out that they're at fault for all of your problems. Here we have the truth. You've got an invisible contract with them. Anyway, so that set me, the whole thing was kind of interesting. And I've always had in the back of my mind, sometimes I just remember little predictions, and I've always remembered this prediction from Bernadette Brady. But because it was such a long time ago, I wasn't quite sure. And because my various copies of The Eagle and the Lark that I've bought over the years are in storage, I thought, I just can't remember. So what I did is I wrote to Bernadette Brady, as you do in 2021, because we can get everyone's emails address easily enough these days. And I said, am I right in thinking that in The Eagle and the Lark, didn't you predict that the royal family would end with Prince William? And she said, yes, I most certainly did. And I'm like, okay, because it kind of seems like it might be going to come true. And I did try and get her onto the show to talk about her work, but Bernadette is such a legend. She said she didn't feel the need to promote herself, which is a shame, because I think it would have been very interesting for all of us to hear what she had to say. So she didn't want to come on the show, but she did say, yes, that is what I predicted in